Have you ever like thought about how cool it would be to like just feel a sound
Yeah.
and then turn it into art? Like turn the energy of a thunderstorm or something into a painting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, get ready because
Yeah.
today we're doing a deep dive into a paper that's basically doing just that, but with AI.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Robot Synesthesia, a sound and emotion-guided robot painter.
Wow.
And it's seriously creative. I mean, we've seen AI make images from text, right?
Right.
But this is different. This is like translating sounds and emotions, feelings into visual art.
Yeah, it's really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with AI and art. I mean,
For sure.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, so where do we even start with this? Like, how do we even begin to unpack this?
Okay, well, so this research is based on an existing robotic painting framework. It's called Frida.
Okay.
And basically, Frida is like a robot that can paint in the real world, like with real paint and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it's controlled by a bunch of different parameters that dictate like the length of the brushstrokes and the color and the orientation and stuff.
So it's like Frida has the technical skills of a painter, but then this new research is about giving it like the artistic sensibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The researchers behind this paper, they wanted to know if they could add sound and speech as creative inputs for Frida.
Oh, that's cool.
They call this enhanced version Esfrida.
So how does Esfrida like actually hear the sound and translate it into a breaststroke? Like, does it have little robot ears?
Not quite,
Okay.
but it's similar in a way. So for natural sounds, like if you think of rain or bird song, Esfrida uses this model called Cleley Pottyo to analyze the sound and then find a way to visually represent like the characteristics of that sound in the painting.
That's so cool. But I mean, sounds are complicated. How does AI even begin to understand what it's hearing?
Right, yeah. So that's where this concept of latent space comes in. So imagine like a giant map where like every point on this map represents a unique combination of visual and auditory features,
Okay.
and that's the latent space. So what CLI Pottyo does is it analyzes the sound and then also analyzes the simulated painting. And it places them as points on this map.
Okay.
And then the goal is to bring those points as close together as possible, meaning that the painting is sort of accurately reflecting those qualities of the sound.
So it's like AI is playing connect the dots, but with sound and images instead of dots.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get the picture,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
But what about speech? That seems even more complicated.
Yeah. So speech guidance is where things get even more interesting, I think. Esfrida separates speech into two main features. The text, like the words themselves, which carry the content, and then also the tone, like how those words are spoken, which kind of conveys the emotion.
So it's not just about understanding the words, but also how they're spoken, the feeling.
Yeah. So for the text part, Esfrida uses a transcription model called Whisper to actually understand the words.
Okay.
And it uses that information to guide the painting process. So that's kind of like giving the robot a basic theme for the artwork. But then on top of that, it also analyzes the tone of the speech to capture the emotion.
Wait, hold on. How can a robot understand human emotion? I mean, that's so subjective.
It is, but the researchers actually trained a model specifically to do that. They use something called speech emotion recognition, or SEAR, which analyzes the way that speech, like the acoustic features of the speech, to identify emotions like joy or sadness or anger and things like that.
Interesting.
And they train this on massive data sets of emotional speech. So it's kind of learned how to recognize these subtle cues that we as humans use to convey emotion with our voices.
So it's like the robot is learning to read between the lines, or rather like hear between the words. This is seriously impressive. But like, does it actually work? Can a robot actually capture like the essence of a sound or an emotion in a painting?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And to answer that, we need to look at the study's results, which are pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's hear what this emotion painting robot can do.
Well, before we jump into the results, I think it's helpful to explain how they actually set up these experiments.
Okay. So we've got this robot, Esfrida, and it can like supposedly paint based on sounds and emotions.
Right.
How did they actually test this? Did they just ask it like, hey, how you feeling, buddy?
Well, no, not quite.
Okay.
So they actually had it create a bunch of paintings based on different sounds. So like rain, thunder, bird song.
Oh, cool.
And then they would show these paintings to people and they would also play them the sound.
So it's kind of like a name that tune, but with paintings and sound instead of music.
Exactly. Yeah. And the people had to guess which painting went with which sound.
Okay.
And the really cool part is that people were actually able to identify the correct sound more often than like if they were just randomly guessing. So that means that, the paintings were capturing something about those sounds.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And did they notice any interesting patterns in like what sounds people were getting right or wrong?
Yeah, they found that people often confused sounds that were similar, like thunder and rain,
Okay.
which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because they have similar qualities.
Yeah, it's like trying to tell the difference between two shades of blue that are really close together.
Right.
But what about the emotion part? Like, did they do a similar experiment with that?
Yeah, they did, but it was a little trickier. So they had Esfrida create paintings based on emotions, so like joy or sadness or anger,
Mm-hmm.
and they would give it like specific prompts sometimes, like paint a house with this emotional tone.
So even if the subject of the painting was the same, like a house or something,
Right.
the way it was painted would change based on the emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
And when they showed these paintings to people and asked them to like match the emotion to the artwork, people were able to guess correctly more often than chance.
Okay.
Like it wasn't quite as clear cut as the sound experiment, but it suggests that the AI was able to somehow convey something about the intended emotion.
That's really interesting. It's like the AI is developing its own like visual language for expressing emotions, even though it doesn't experience those emotions the same way we do.
Yeah.
Like, did any particular emotions stand out in the results?
Yeah, so they actually found that awe was the easiest emotion for people to identify correctly. And they thought that was maybe because awe evokes certain visual patterns that we're just kind of like naturally drawn to.
Okay.
Amusement and excitement were often confused with each other.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so some emotions are just harder to like pin down visually, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I can imagine an AI painting like a starry night sky for awe. But what would amusement look like?
A bunch of clowns. I don't know. It's making me think about like how we connect emotions to imagery in the first place.
Yeah, it's a really complex relationship.
Yeah.
And speaking of complex relationships, they also looked at how language plays into all of this.
Okay.
So they compared paintings that were generated directly from a sound to paintings that were generated from a text description of that same sound. And the paintings were totally different.
Really?
Yeah.
So even if you like had an accurate description of what the sound was,
Right.
it couldn't capture like the feeling of actually hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of shows the limits of language.
Right.
When we're trying to describe something that's so subjective, like sound, it's kind of like, how do you explain what chocolate tastes like to someone who's never had it before?
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Language can only go so far. It makes me wonder if like AI might actually be better than us at understanding and expressing certain aspects of art, because it's not limited by like the same constraints of language.
Right.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Did they do anything else cool and interesting with Esfrida?
Oh, yeah. There's more. They also explored something called multimodal guidance.
Okay.
And that's where they basically combined audio inputs with other creative inputs that Frida can handle. So like images, sketches, different painting styles.
So they're like giving the robot a whole symphony of creative input to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
And the results were mostly abstract, but they did show that these different ingredients can be blended together effectively to guide the painting process.
Okay.
So it really opens up a lot of possibilities for human AI collaboration,
Okay, that is officially mind-blowing. We've covered so much already. I can't wait to hear your novel notions for where all this could lead.
Oh, yeah. Let's jump into that.
All right, so it's novel notions time, where we like take the ideas from the paper and like launch them into the future, right? What possibilities are you thinking about after all this?
Well, so many, honestly.
Okay.
But one that really comes to mind is like AI-powered music visualization. We've all seen those like basic music visualizations, like the bouncing bars or the trippy waveforms.
They're cool, but they don't really capture like the feeling,
Exactly, yeah. And so imagine if we could use something like Esfrida to actually translate music into like a visual masterpiece. That changes and evolves with the music.
Oh, wow.
Like mirroring the emotions and energy.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, instead of just hearing the music, you're also like seeing it in a whole new way.
It'd be like stepping into the mind of the composer or something.
Right, exactly.
Whoa, okay, that's one novel notion down. but I know you've got more. Come on, hit me with another one.
All right, how about this? Therapeutic applications for Esfrida. Like, imagine a therapist using this to help a patient express emotions that they maybe have trouble putting into words. So the
Right.
patient could, like, hum a tune or even just sit in silence. And the AI could translate their emotional state into something visual.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, and it could give the therapist valuable insights into the patient's inner world.
Like a visual language for emotions,
Exactly.
especially for people who find it hard to, express themselves verbally.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Like this technology could create art and help people. That's so cool.
Yeah, this paper really shows how AI is moving beyond just like crunching numbers and it's getting into human creativity and emotion.
For sure.
It's really cool.
So the question is, could AI one day become like a true artistic collaborator,
Yeah.
helping us create art that's not just technically impressive, but also really meaningful?
I think that's a question for the future, but this research is definitely opening up a whole new world of possibilities for, how we create and experience art.
Absolutely. And that, my friends, wraps up our deep dive into robot synesthesia. If you want to learn more, we've got a link to the full paper in the show notes.
And remember, these novel notions are just for fun, but who knows, maybe one day we'll all have robot art buddies.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep exploring and keep creating.